Welcome back to The Narrative. I'm your storyteller, Callistra Farrier. Joining me now, Cecil Noel, the Chief Executive Officer of Spice Mass Grenada. Grenada getting ready for what it says is the greatest show on earth, Carnival 2023. That's going to be held on August 14th and 15th, Monday and Tuesday. A few things being done differently this year for Carnival, and Mr. Noel is going to run us through the program for 2023. Spice Mass was launched several weeks ago, and the Calypso tents have begun doing their thing. It's always an important part of the Carnival celebrations in Grenada for the tent, the Calypso tents, to open, one of the most authentic parts of the Carnival. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Callistra, and thanks for having us on as part of your program. We appreciate that. So thanks to your viewing audience.
So Carnival was launched a few weeks ago. What's been happening since? I know the tents have opened. What else is going on right now?
Well, yes, we launched it approximately 2 months ago, actually. And what is going on? We have a number of things that took place between then and now. So, in preparation, for example, of the semifinals, which is going on presently, we had workshops for all the different aspects of Carnival. That's workshop for the judges. So we had workshop for judges for Calypso, Soca. We had workshops in place for Steel Pan, as well as for Mass for judging. So those are some of the prerequisites. And now we are into, I would say, not quite full gear, but we're getting there with the preliminaries, which started last night at Lasajes. And we on again tonight back at Lasajes. We are starting 8 p.m. and it's a nice environment. So we're encouraging people please to come out. And the prelims will continue tomorrow night, Saturday, at the Cuthbert Peters Park in St. John. And then we move over, or we move up, I should say, north to Boss Yard in St. Patrick on Sunday for the fourth and the last of the Power Soca prelims. Now, what is important that I would really like to emphasize here is that the preliminaries, you have a large number of people vying to get into that final space on the finals. So it's really important at this stage that the general public come out and give full support to the artists, because put it this way, you have what approximately in the case of the Power Soca 101 people and one persons registered, artists registered, and it's just a few of them that are going to make it. So it's good to come out and give them the support. This is what's going to really motivate them and assist them in propelling and doing better going forward. So we get out of, after the prelims for the Power, we then get into the prelims for the Groovy, and that is going to be following very soon. From the Groovy, we start getting into the Calypso tents. And as far as I'm aware, I got a note that indicate that the GPAC tent are doing the official launch on Sunday at the Deluxe Cinema. So things are really getting into place. We know, for example, the Queens also, a lot of preparatory work is being done at present with them. We had, as most recent as Sunday, we had a Queen's Fashion Show, which was also a success. We continue to work with the traditional mass in terms of educational program, doing documentary sessions, interviews, because what we are going to use these documentaries to do is to further highlight the traditional mass, the importance of the traditional mass to Grenada. And may I add here, it is part of what makes Grenada Carnival extremely unique, because the traditional mass is really something that we can boast as being our own. The traditional mass, which includes, for example, the old mass as well as the jab jab, which we very well known for. So a lot's happening at the moment. We have the pan men in the pan house. They are practicing very hard. We have also commenced doing video shoots at the pan house, which we're going to use to also sensitize the general public and helping and encouraging them to come out to Panorama, which takes place on the 12th of August.
And
So
then,
there's a lot going on.
speaking of Panorama, are there any conflicts this year with Panorama, or Panorama gets its own night without any white indie anything getting in the way of it? Are there any other big shows on the night of Panorama?
Panorama gets its space at the National Stadium on Saturday the 12th. Nothing that I can think of that is going to in any way affect what is happening there at the stadium.
Are there any conflicts though for any of the big shows that are under the Spice Mass brand? Are there any private enterprises that are having shows that on the same nights? We've always had
Um,
issues with
I,
that.
I believe, for example, the night of Queen Show, I know there's other events happening in the north, but I really don't see these events as conflict. In some cases, what really happened is that they help in I'm looking for the right word here. They help in the whole build up to Carnival. They help in broadening the scope because we must be mindful at Spice Mass, and I would hasten to say we need to be doing more. But as it is now, based on what is being done, we cannot and are not in a position to do it all by ourselves. So we do know the private promoters putting on other events in and between, and as it is right now, what happened is those complement what we are doing. So I really don't see them as being conflict. Even where there may be a situation where, let's say on the night of the Queen Show, there's an event in St. Andrews. I don't see it as a conflict because we are confident that the people who, for example, are going to come out and support the Queen Show will come out. If there's another event at some other distant venue when something else has happened, whether it's Pan or so, we are also of that opinion that the people who will support Pan will come and support Pan. But as I said, having said that, generally going forward, I think there need to be a greater sense of appreciation for the calendar of Spice Mass and how the other promoters event fit into that. There's something that definitely
But
needs to be looked and
it
fine
is
tuned.
Spice Mass that gives the approval, not so for these things to happen. I mean, you own Spice Mass really owns the brand, the Carnival. Is your property really. You preside over everything. From what takes place during the calendar, as well as who gets to sell on the sidewalk. So
That's right.
how is it that you approve shows with promoters who may have a bigger budget to promote their show, more resources to promote their show, and you approve them on the same night that you are having something, things like Queen Show and Panorama, where we always complain about the dying audience in number of in the audience, and then Spice Mass goes ahead and approves a private show, and do you make a lot of money out of these shows? Is it a money thing where Spice Mass charges a huge fee to these promoters to have the event? Because I
No,
understand that that's not the case.
And Kalisha, in all fairness, I mean, you asked a question, but I just answered. I just explained to you exactly what happens. So you asking a question again, it
No, no,
doesn't
no,
quite change
no,
the
no, I'm
answer
not.
that
No,
I'm
no, no, no,
giving.
no, no. I am asking a different question now. I'm asking Spice Mass has the power to say yes or no to these promoters for specific
Mhm.
nights. You are saying yes. So why?
That's what I'm saying. I just explained to you. Spice Mats on its own can't do it all as it is now. Maybe it's something that, and as I stated, it's something we need to look at going forward to decide how much
But
of which
can't do
events.
all what? I mean, Carnival Queen Show is a carnival event. These things are white in this and the white in that, and so they are not Grenada Carnival events. The promoters are using the opportunity to have their private enterprise operate during a time when something else is happening. But they don't have white in the anything in September or any. They choose that time because it's a lucrative time. Um, so I'm trying to get a sense of where we have recognized and we've talked about the conflict. You're a Pan man. There was a big issue over Pan. I'm happy Pan is getting its night exclusive now. But this is a conversation we've been happening. And in a year when we're talking about transformation, and you talked about that a lot when we launched Carnival a few months ago, the press launch for Carnival. We've gone ahead and done the same thing again. I understand that even one of the shows is owned by a senior member of the Spice Mass board. Is that true?
Well, Kalisha, I am here. I am here as you invite me to, and I'm going to stick to what I'm here for and understand it. I am here for us to talk of Spice Mass in the context of what's happening, how we can help people to participate, how we can help to make it bigger and better. I am not here to be discussing what, as you have alluded to, could be conflicts. And quite frankly, if that's what the discussion is really about, it kind of take away from what I think is the crux of what I would like to be on a program. I want to be able to tell people, for example, what we're doing, ask them to come out and support, ask people where and how possible, whether as stakeholders in the mass pan industry to work with us to make things happen. I'm here to appeal to the general public as far as possible, whether it mean in terms of sponsoring to help us to get where we want to be. So for example, if all of these things can happen, maybe, and we will see Spice Mars being a better and more lucrative position where a lot more can be done, where that entire week leading up to the main parade of the Carnival Monday and Tuesday, where Spice Mars could fully and truly take full claim of that, cognizant of the fact of the finances are in place and everything else. But it should remain that until such time, we have to work as much as possible to make Spice Mars as an event, inclusive and beneficial to everyone, including the spectators.
Um, so there's also, well, you don't want to talk about conflicts, but the issue of the Dimash Gra, which is no longer happening. Any movement there? I know that I heard a bit of talk about some changes happening. Will there be any changes? Are we going back to the original King and Queen of the Bands night, and the Calypso final still remains in St. Andrew on a Thursday night with no Dimash Gray anymore? That is going on?
So I will start with the last one first. The Calypso finals that takes place on the Thursday night at Progress Park in St. Andrew. And let me hasten to indicate here that the stakeholders, who are the Calypsonians themselves, are the one who has specifically asked for this to happen, where it is scheduled to happen, and on the date it is scheduled to happen. So that's the care of that. However, going forward, and when I say going forward, we're looking at 2024, the decision to have the Majga return to the big stage is critical, and we have, I will already say, agree that that will happen. Now, you got to understand the Majga as it is a specific date, the Sunday. It also encompasses a number of elements which, if it's not there, it's really not the Majgra. So we are working to ensure that it returns. So for example, we have already had discussion with the fancy mass bands, indicating to them what our plans are and for them to be thinking ahead in terms of being prepared to have king and queen to be able to be judged as fancy mass band for 2024. So we could bring the Majra back to the big stage at the National Stadium. That's where we're working towards. Now, as you will appreciate, as I said, it will take everyone, stakeholders especially, to make sure that this happens. We want the mass association to be better organized, so we have all the bands registered and doing what needs to happen, being able to parade on the streets and being able to make that appearance at the Majga, showing off the king and queen of the bands and so forth. So these are things we're working at. Now the Majga for 2024 may not be the same as you knew it to be in the past. We have a number of different concepts we're working along with, including from the dialogue with the Calypso fraternity. Um, So it could be a case that the Calypsonians compete on that night. It could be a case that the competition remains the Thursday, but we have all the finals or all the winners from the shows coming in on a Sunday, because by then, with the exception maybe of the road match, everybody else will know who would have won the different categories. So there are a lot of different concepts that we're looking at, but definitely the Majgra is scheduled to return in 2024 at the National Stadium.
And to make it even longer, you may have the first, second, and third place winners of the various music genres
It's
appear
it it
on
it
that
it
night.
is it is quite possible, because it all depends on how we eventually frame it. And when I say frame it, because you say the night, but who know, maybe it's something that we want to start even earlier, and have it go into that nice build up into Juve morning. So all of these are not finalized, but what we do know is that it's going to return, and we want it to return in a big way. Maybe we'll have some aspect of even extemporaneous singing, will make it interesting, something that could make it different. So those are some of the things that we are looking at to bring back the Majka on stream.
No, the traditional mass, you talked a bit about that earlier, and sometimes you hear people say that it's a dying tradition, not the jab jab because that's exploding, but the other aspects of old mass, which are beautiful if you understand them and you
Yeah.
do them right. Are you putting extra financial resources into the communities where those mass are created? And so the Veco in Victoria, the wild Indian, although I don't like that name, up in
Yeah,
the
I know.
northern part of
I've
Sydney.
heard people mention about Wild Indianas
Uh-huh.
in terms of it. But yes, we are putting emphasis, and I know you say financial, but let us understand it. We are putting a lot of finance into it, but it is not a case that some people may think finance just go into the hands of the people. No, what we are doing, for example, we have reached out, and it's a continuous process that we started about a month and a half ago, working along in some cases with the Grenada Tourism Authority. We are actually going out to the villages where these traditional masks and the leaders reside. So we are not asking them to come to us, and we're going out there with videographers, we're going out there with people doing interviews, and we are reaching out to these people, find out what their needs are, find out what the situation with them in terms of the mass bands, whether it's Veku, the White Indian, the Shortney, Moko Jumbi, Old Mass, whatever it is, we have reached out to them and continue to do so to get a better appreciation for what's happening with them and how we can help. Now, the whole objective behind all of this, one, is to make sure we sustain traditional mass, because we see this as a key component of spice mass. It is something that is unique to us. A number of the other islands are now trying doing some of these, but it's not quite the same way that we do it. All right. So as I said, the documentaries in themselves, once completed, we will use them for educational process. So other people, and especially children, will get to understand this cultural and historical element of the traditional mass, where they come from, why are we still doing it, what was the benefit back then when it started. For example, I would just simply say, if you realize most of the traditional mass, there are disguised and that faces are covered and so. There are historic information behind that why it happened. It may be maybe back then in the days of slavery, people hide their identity when they saw it as a way of hitting back at a slave master or something without being recognized. So there's a lot of educational information behind the traditional mask, more than a lot of people know and will understand. So we are working on these documentaries, and as I said, the aim is to be used to help in motivating people to become members of these masks, to grow the masks themselves, to have more bands, to have the bands being larger, and to get young people especially involved, so that the whole question of sustainability is something that we can eventually be proud of years to come.
Well, as a child of VACO from Victoria, I look forward to the increased attention and support. And I certainly like the idea of creating the visuals for recording and for
Yes,
posterity so
yes,
that
yes.
people
I
can
mean,
learn. I know how to
and for
swing.
the
I know how
audience,
to swing a pole.
you know to do that.
I know how to
Because
swing
I
a pole.
mean, because even if you talk about the costumes, the making, the building of the costumes, including the shoes that they wear. And may I add, part of what we're doing, apart from educating the general public, is also trying to sensitize those mass leaders, traditional mass leaders, that here there is actually some form of financial gains that can be derived from these. So we had discussion, let's say, with the jab leaders, some of them, and we are like, why don't you produce your jab mixture, give it a name, brand it, sell it? Why don't you, whether it's a jab or a moko jumbi or a veku, when the cruise ship come in, why don't you interact with the GTA to make sure that you can go and display your talent and be paid for it? So these are some of the additional things we're doing, because for most part, the traditional mass, there is that belief that they just come out for Carnival, they do what they have to do, and they go back in. But we think from a cultural and from a heritage standpoint, there's a lot more that behind it, and there's a lot more that can be derived from displaying the mass to the public and
I mean,
foreigners, I mean.
I mean, certainly the shortney and the Veco in particular, those are year-round, authentic heritage products that we can actually market. You know,
Yes, and
a
we
pair
need
of
to do it.
clogs, a tourist might love to take back, coming on a cruise ship, love to take back a pair of clogs,
And
understanding what the clog is related to. Buy a
yeah,
pair of clog and take it back, yeah.
I was informed, and I mean properly informed, that some time ago, a tourist actually purchased one of the jab helmet with a horn. I think maybe for like 100 US or whatever it was. And even if that song, whatever it song like, a decent price or whatever, the point I'm really emphasizing here is, don't take it for granted that what you do, it doesn't have any impact. There is a lot of impact, and there's a lot you can derive from it. One of the young men, for example, I spoke with, who is well known for the as a Moko Jumbi. This young man is so talented, and as I told him, why don't you use your talent to help, not just in showing off what you can do, but in getting in some finances? He make clocks, he can do mud masks, he can do a range of things, but it has never been shown to him or explained to him the financial benefit and gains that can be derived. And these are some of what we want to do. And the truth is that even if we do that for traditional mass, we still face similar challenges even with the Calypsonians. I really believe, whether Calypsonians, steel band, there are a lot that can be done other than just waiting for when the Spice Mass, quote unquote, carnival season come around. We need to be able to better market ourselves and market our product, and see the need for it to grow and be vibrant. Because what happens is that if that is done, you will have greater following when time comes for the grand stage at Spice Mass, whether it's for the Calypso show or Panorama. And I'm saying these because we know, for example, in the case of the Soca, the attendance there are relatively decent, but we need to see more. And to see more, the stakeholders need to do more. They need to make themselves be seen and heard more in different arena outside of just Spice Mass.
This something that requires a coordinating body, so it means that Spice Mass now has to become an entity that operates for longer than 3 months of the year. You now have to operate for 12 months of the year as a proper statutory corporation that you are, so that you can provide the guidance and the coordination. So people need to be given a direction, where to go, what to do, to get it done. That young man, for instance, that you talk about, I can see
And,
him
and
getting
we
some
plan.
money from GDB to establish a business with his things.
And the truth, Callistra, I mean, everything being equal, and we continue. And when I say we, under my leadership, that is exactly what we plan to do. But let me explore and explain something that goes a step further. You may, and I'm sure you will have heard of the Grenada Cultural Foundation. a lot of what, for example, I have mentioned to you, really and truly should be fallen under the ambit of the Grenada Cultural Foundation.
But where are
Because in
they?
es- because in essence, what is supposed to happen, the whole question of sustainability, development in all the areas that we spoke of, whether it's pan, let's say, getting pan and getting pan tuners, encouraging the pans to grow, trying to work towards getting pans in school and villages and communities, whether it's the traditional mass, um, and all other things that I explored and spoke of. The truth is that there must be that synergy between a few organizations, the Grenada Cultural Foundation, the Ministry of Culture, to some extent, Grenada Tourism Authority, Spice Mass, and I'm sure the list can be extended. We all need to work together in harmony to make sure these things happen. Because Spice Mass, really and truly, what we ought to be doing is putting on the event Spice Mass, organizing it, executing it, and make sure it run. But we really should be fed with all the different elements for Spice Mass. This should be coming whether it's from the cultural foundation side, whether it's from the schools sending in the children or bands for the children's carnival frolic. And whether so these are the things that we want to see happen. The mass bands, in terms of building costumes. It is not really the sole responsibility of Spice Master to make sure that happens. But the fact is, since we are putting on the event, for the event to be successful, we have to try to work with and encourage people to do that. But as I said, ideally, the Ministry of Culture, Cultural Foundation, these are the groupings that should be taking the lead to make sure that these things happen. So, quote unquote, when the time comes for Spice Mass, we have all the elements required to execute and put on a great event.
Now, this year you are putting more into the pot. You've increased prizes for both in cash and kind for participants of the various shows. That is still on. The money has come to make these things happen.
Well, let me put it this way: the money has to come from somewhere at some point. But again, I would start by saying the culture or heritage, it is something we really and honestly cannot put a price on. And I could explain what I mean by that. So, for example, Panorama will come and Panorama will go. And people will probably say, well, their attendance is not that we like it to be, or it's not a financial gain. But do anyone put a value on what is being done in the communities where you have steel band, where you have leaders of steel band engaging all these young people, hundreds of young people in the art of playing pan? And if you check on the social benefit for the community, for the country that come from something like that, you really can't put a price on it. I mean, I'm saying this because I've been integrally involved, and I still remember my good friend David Peck Edwards. So what we do is that we get these people, we train them, and when we train them, it's not just to play pan, it's not just to understand pan. It's helped them with what happened in school. It helped them with what happened at home. I mean, from my direct involvement in things like that, I used to have parents calling sometimes saying, listen, this person is not doing what they're supposed to do with their schoolwork or their home chores, but they want to come to the pan house. So you have to play your part now as the tutor in the pan house to explain to the young people that they also need to be involved in doing what is required of them at school and so forth. We help in keeping these people off the streets from getting into, you know, activities that are not where we want them to be. How can you put a value of that? How can you then say, forget, let's not generate or put the financials into pan? And I just use that as an example. But the same can be said for others. So we
For
look
all
at
of
people
them.
like Teacher Eddie,
But
who
but let me ask you though, because what I'm focusing on here, trying to focus now, is the prizes. I know government gives a subvention and you get corporate sponsorship. Has government committed already, and how much have they committed to providing for the staging of Spice Mass this year?
we have commitment, as I know of to date, to the tune of 2 million. And 1
Two
million
million,
comes
two
to,
million in total. Oh, you're giving me the breakdown. Go ahead.
yeah, so 1 million comes from government, and that million it's shared up in two. One, you have approximately 800 that goes directly towards Carnival, and another 200,000 which is administrative for the running of the office. And then again, under the authorization of government, you have additional funds coming through, another million coming through the NLA. So that's what we have. So we are now have to go out and try to generate to get the additional funds. But the reason why I was making mention of all of that with regards to what is Steel Band doing, the monies that the Steel Band will then eventually receive from a prize money, for example, that is what is used to be able to purchase instruments, to pay tuners, to help to have the instruments there to do all the things we spoke of in terms of the social benefits to society. So it's in that context I was making it. So when we say the prize money is increased, it's increased, but it goes right back into benefiting the community, into benefiting the country in those ways. Yeah. I was going to make mention of people like Teacher Eddie. How do you put a cost on what he does year after year with the young people in the field of calypso? And these are some of the things I think we need to look at in a more holistic manner and encourage these people and find some ways of helping them to better their craft in terms of what they do, which all for the end of the day benefits Grenada, you know.
Well, we are unfortunately out of time. You need to come back again.
And Kalisha, you know that there's absolutely no problem in coming back again. It's
And
just,
I
as
have
I will
I
tell you,
have
the schedule is
exhausted.
tight.
Uh,
The schedule is tight, but we'll make the effort because we want to be here to educate our people as to what's happening, and people need to know what's happening. Yeah?
and I have exhausted my questions about the approval of shows that compete with the Spice Mass branded products. So I may not
Yeah.
have questions like that for you the next time you come back.
Well, it's fine because we're clear on what we aiming to achieve. Well, thank you so much for having me on. Yeah?
And it was my pleasure to have you.
You're
Thank
most
you.
welcome, my dear. Thank
All
you.
right. This is The Narrative. I'm your storyteller, Calistro Faria, speaking there with Cecil Noel, who is the CEO of Grenada's Spice Mass. We're getting ready for Carnival 2023, August 14 and 15. More when we come back.